Welcome to Sticking to the Truth with Julene Jackson and Debbie Jansen. Have you ever been in a public place and heard someone scream back, "Is there a doctor in the house?" Kind of panicky like? If you have, I bet that you've never heard another voice scream, "Who's asking and why do you want me?" We don't hear that. In reality, it doesn't matter who's hurt or who needs help. The doctor jumps up and he runs and immediately helps the person in need. Well, even though the violent protesters are out of control and making things worse, today I'm wondering if we need to call 911 EMTs for help. Join us to find out how all of this anger and violence is playing out in the protester's life. Let's find out if this is helping them or causing major physical ailments. Hello, Julene. It is so good to have you back on the East Coast. Boy, you travel a lot. But this time, I'm so sorry. I want our listeners to join me in saying we are sorry for your loss and the world's loss, actually. Dr. Kimber wrote many books that have helped us understand our government, and we've talked about them here on this program. And he wrote them to help us know how to impact change. Unfortunately, he passed away last week, and we are praying for Julianne, his widow, and his company, and all of you that are hurting from this loss. How are you doing, Julene?
Oh, so good. Thank you so much for mentioning Dr. Glenn Kimber, and he certainly had an impact on my life. I was actually able to escape the frozen tundra in Washington, D.C., and go to Utah a few days ago for that funeral service, and it was beautiful. Glenn Kimber is the son-in-law of Cleon Skousen, and it was actually Cleon that wrote, many, many bestsellers, The 5,000-Year Leap, The Healing of America, The Making of America, The Majesty of God's Laws, tons of parenting books, and then commentary on the Bible and so forth. There's even a room in the Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California, named
Oh,
after Cleon Skousen. So his son-in-law, Dr. Kimber, Glenn Kimber, traveled with Cleon Skousen for years, and they met with popes and presidents, and so and he helped to write some of the books that Cleon Skousen produced. And so I was never alive. Cleon Skousen died 2 years before I became familiar with the Thomas Jefferson Center for Constitutional Studies. But I got to learn at the feet of Glenn Kimber, who is really quite magnificent in his own right. And he taught us the Constitution from the viewpoint of the founding fathers and the miracle stories of America. And it really changed my life as a woman, as a mother. It taught me. I began to teach my children these things. It changed my marriage with my husband. We began to teach together these principles in our home. Ultimately, it would lead to my husband running for office and becoming a state senator. And
I didn't
and
know
um,
that.
so the Thomas Jefferson Center for Constitutional Studies is still going to go on. My husband will be a part of the leadership, and he and I will continue to teach every Wednesday night. They have classes for free. People from around the country get on Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I think they're teaching a class on Middle East prophecy and European history right now, which is, so pertains to
Yeah.
what's going on right now with Iran and so forth. And so, when these greats pass on, right, Debbie, it's up to us. We have to square our shoulders, put our shoulder to the wheel kind of thing. And we've got to do our part now to perpetuate and continue on what these great men and women have given us in the past. So here we go.
Here we go. Oh, he was a great man, and so was his father-in-law. And I encourage everyone to get their books. They are phenomenal. But today we are concerned about the protesters, and I don't say that lightly. I really am concerned about their feelings and what's going on this. So on this podcast, we've discussed their tactics and how they don't work. And we've discussed their viewpoints and how badly they are flawed. But this week, I watched a female protester scream at an ICE agent, begging him to shoot her in the face. And
Mm.
I'm just going to try to kind of do what she did here today. She was screaming at this ICE agent, going, shoot me in the face. You got to shoot me. I want you to shoot me. Please shoot me. You're a coward if you don't shoot me." And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, oh my, this is more than just caring about America. I saw beyond her actions and I witnessed a great danger for her own life force.
Yeah.
For example, did you know that prolonged and violent anger significantly harms you physically and it harms your mental health? To be in a constant state of fight or flight can actually deteriorate your physical health more than eating a can of green beans or some sugar. This is going to really significantly decrease your physical health. That constant state of mental anguish and anger and the need to violently fight back triggers the release of adrenaline and cortisol. Now, cortisol and adrenaline lead to high blood pressure, increased heart rate, and damage to your blood vessels. It also causes depression, fear, anxiety, and all of those issues are running at high levels constantly in your head. By the same token, bottled up anger will also produce some same problems, but we'll discuss that later and how you can get it out properly.
Mhm.
Anger is a cancer that not only ruins relationships, but according to the Columbia University scientists, chronic anger will cause heart disease and a host of other deadly diseases. And they are working to see which ones really come into play and cause problems. Get this. Oh, Julene, this just, when I read this, I went,
Sure.
After a violent, angry attack, they have proven that the angry attack doesn't have to be physical. So you can just get mad at your spouse or whatever, and you're yelling and you're screaming and you're being out of control. After that kind of display, researchers have found that the blood vessel function in your body is impaired for 40 minutes. 40 minutes. You're
Mm.
not getting good blood flow. It's not just during the attack, it's afterwards. That struck me hard because, see this hand? Doctors were going to amputate my arm up to here. Why? Because the blood vessels weren't working properly. Can you imagine, Julie, what is happening all over their body of a violent protester when they are in anger mode for most of the day? So
Mm.
if they get angry around a ICE agent, they back off and they relax for 15 minutes. That blood still hasn't recovered, and now they're doing it again. Well, another study found that continued anger can cause mental decline. uh, Wait a minute. So they can't be logical? And I dove into there's a lot of research on it, and I'm not going to bring it up here. We'll be here for a couple of hours. But it actually does trigger some problems in your brain, and you are incapable of being logical or dealing with other people or hearing the fact, even just hearing the facts you need to see the situation differently, which may say that Trump derangement syndrome is probably a real problem.
Mhm.
Now, I could go on with this, but for me, it's sad that we allow out of control violent anger and thinking that it will help the person deal with his dysfunctional mental process. You cannot help yourself deal with dysfunctional mental process with anger. Anger is not going to help it, it's going to make it worse. So while we watch these protesters have a meltdown, we are also watching a sort of, dare I say it? It's an unconscious suicide
Mm,
that will someday threaten their lives.
mhm.
I don't wanna stand around and watch that. I wanna help them. And for me, that's incredibly sad, and I think we have to figure out how to stop it. They are screaming that no one should be forced to obey the law or to die because they don't want law and order. And yet while they're saying that, they're killing themselves. Oh my, Julie, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, Dr. Debbie, you just have been laying down the medical wisdom here, how stress and anger and hate are bad physically. There's like a physical reaction. There's a breakdown. There's a, you're internally, you get inflamed, and inflamed causes disease. And, I mean, I'm like, "Oh, I don't wanna be on that team." As I'm looking behind me, I finally got everything all decorated in the house for Valentine's Day, and so, I've got all these depictions of my kids and embracing, love, and, where there's an environment of love, there is growth, right? You flourish. And an environment of hate and stress and, anger, it leads you down that path of a breakdown, right? Destruction.
Yeah,
And, I mean, we have to talk about the physical, implications of bottling that kind of emotion up and then like a volcano unleashing and loading, and it's not good for you. It's actually really sad to see, just the mental instability that, a woman actually begging someone to shoot them in the face on national TV, that you're not well. I mean, it's okay to disagree with people, right? But when their peaceful protests turn into, begging for someone to take them out, you go, I think there's more at play here than them just wanting to lend their voice to, their cause. And so whenever you cross the line and to try to obstruct, the law, obstruct justice, because this is a country based on the rule of law, it's not going to go well for you. You might not be going home that day when you try and obstruct the very thing that makes our nation so successful and peaceful, that there is law and order. And I mean, it was interesting being in Utah a few days ago. I was walking home from yoga. Yoga is a really great way, if I can just pitch yoga, to de-stress. You breathe, you get in touch with yourself on the mat. I mean, it's just a lovely experience to let some of those emotions release from you. But I was walking home from yoga. It's a downtown studio in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I have to pass the governor's mansion on South Temple to come to our little downtown apartment. And it looked like the local middle school had let their doors out because there was like 100 middle schoolers, protesting in front of the
what?
office governor's mansion, and they had their little LGBTQ flags, but then they had some, "Out with ICE" posters, so I thought, "Okay, they're probably just trying to throw in all their little issues that give them a sense of service and well-being and purpose." And, the kids looked like they were having a grand time. They were out of school, right? But I do think that, everyone wants to be a part of something, right? Everyone wants to feel like that they're somehow contributing to the betterment of souls, so to speak. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, these young kids are really being taken advantage of, and they're being misguided because they don't really understand who they're trying to protect, right?
right.
And but it was interesting to see those kids, just loving, waving, and they get some honks in the cars, and then the kids would just scream and yell and hooping it up, having a grand time. But, I mean, we have to be careful when that we don't manipulate these young kids' minds, and we have to ask, what in the world are these schools allowing kids to just walk out? And
Yeah,
from mom and dad, I mean, if it were if I those one of my kids was on that corner, in front of the governor's mansion, I would have made a beeline, called that school, gone in and talked because that is an abuse of the power that they hold over our children to, indoctrinate.
Exactly. Oh, wow. You're taking me down a different road now too, which I think is really good. Because yeah, anger is hard enough for an adult to deal with. Can you imagine if they whip
Oh,
these kids up to be angry about something that they hardly even know about?
right.
I am concerned that 90% or more of angry protesters are doing it because they lack real purpose in their life. And that's
Yeah,
what you said about these kids. They're
yeah.
feeling good because they've got something to do and they're out of school. And that is a high for everybody. Humans are wired to want to live for something greater. We need purpose and something that takes our life to a higher plane. We need to believe that we are making a difference in our lives and the lives of others. And I'm sure that's why these kids, they're really excited about this as well. But that's why, that reason is also why these violent protesters are willing to risk their own safety to scream and fight with law officers. That's why they don't want to be silently and quietly working to save children from rape and abuse. I've seen many newscasters ask them, but what about these people that are being hurt over here or over there? And oh no, ISIS just got to go. Because if they help those, they're not on TV. That's done quietly. And saving one child doesn't get you on the news. And we need to be careful that our purpose in life really is a good purpose. These protesters are so out of control, they feel they must have the power that goes along with the anger. And we can say that newscasters and politicians are egging them on, and they are, but the individual protester might be dysfunctional and instead just craves the attention. We have to look at all the reasons for this problem. And hello to politicians and newscasters that are doing this. I wonder if there won't come a time when their body breaks down and some doctor says it's because you've been angry your whole life. Will they be able to turn around and sue the politician or the teacher or anyone else for damages to their bodies? We have to be careful about that. Right, Julie?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're living in a society where that victim mentality of playing the blame game, it's my parents' fault that I have poor health now because they fed me Cocoa Puffs or something, like you're an adult grown up. And I just think that when we're so quick to make excuses, right, for our
Yeah.
bad behavior and maybe project what's going on us, towards people we don't like and point the finger and say, well, the reason why the criminals are doing what they are doing is because of the policies and I mean, when you just stop taking personal responsibility and accountability for yourself, that doesn't lead to a fulfilled, happy life, right? Because there will always be people that are doing things differently than you think, and therefore you will always be upset at someone, and you will always be using them as a crutch or excuse why you can't truly rise and have a positive, impactful life and approach to the world. And so I don't know. We know you laid it out so clearly. Stress kills, right? It breaks down the body over time, and all I know is I don't wanna give my power, I don't wanna give my health, I don't wanna give the spirit in which I operate my life, I don't wanna give control of that to other people, right? I want to be responsible for my physical, my spiritual, my emotional well-being, and if there's a problem, what can I do to help instead of what can I do to build down and destroy? What can I do to build up and repair, right? But that takes some internal maturity and introspection to be able to say, okay, there's a problem. What can I do? What can I do at the most local level within the four walls of my home or within my little street that I live in or within the school settings that my kids go to? But I think it's just more performative when people, write are nasty and the posters are explicit. I mean, they're using cuss words, and
They're threatening murder too,
yeah,
yeah.
and you show up with a couple hundred angry people, and you think that that's somehow contributing to the betterment of society, and it's going to help solve problems. I think studies show and situations in the world have shown that that's not really how you go about repairing the problem, right?
No, it's not. No, it's not. And before I jump back into kind of following your thoughts there, I want to make a difference. There's a difference in stress, anxiety, and anger. Those 3 are different because stress and anxiety is you alone and it is internal. Anger takes it to a higher level because you are fighting someone else and you um, get a lot of your uh, let's see, it's more powerful because you are drawing on their anger
No.
at you as well as your anger at them. So, stress and anxiety is very dangerous for you. Don't go there. Try to get rid of it. But anger takes it to another level.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a big topic, isn't it, Julie?
Woo!
Um, I bet if we got some good, decent psychologists and medical doctors involved, they would agree that we are watching the beginning of the death of these protesters. And for me, that's just sad. And it brings out all my compassion and all my spiritual beliefs. I believe we all should follow the law. I think that's the only way to have a calm, decent society. And I will always want criminals to go to jail so we can have a peaceful and safe society. But at the same time, I believe we must save these protesters from their destructive behaviors in the same way we are trying to get citizens off drugs, eliminate suicide, help us with our bodies to be more healthy, and talk to Julene if you need to do that, and prevent destructive behaviors. We need to be concerned about them and their ability to have a good life. I know we can't legislate behavior that slips into the realm of just personal convictions and beliefs, but I do wish that we could find a way to help negative people see that their life can be beautiful and loving and kind. Real compre- I'm sorry. Real compassion is a life-changing force. Fake compassion, driven by the rantings of people who just want to stir you up, that is not real compassion, is it, Julene?
No. Once again, that would just seem like that was, performative, right? And, it's a big ask to, um try and save someone that doesn't wanna be saved, right? When they're heck bent on hate and anger and taking you down and, obstructing whatever you're doing through any force or means necessary. And you can see that's what hate does, right? It cankers your soul, it eats you up. It really blinds you as to what is really going on, and it's interesting. I mean, God warns about anger so much in the scriptures. Anger, he said, lodges in the heart of fools. So when you think of something that lodges in you, it causes you to choke, right? You can't breathe. It takes away life, good life. And so, all those words, bitterness, wrath, clamor, slander, he said, put it away because
Yeah,
if it
yeah.
lodges in you, it takes your breath, your life away. And certainly we see it causes divisions. And that's certainly what all the enemies of life and liberty and freedom want, right? They want to conquer you through dividing and conquering. It's interesting, Deb. I took my girls in Utah to Melania, the movie. I don't know if you've seen it, the Amazon.
Oh, Amy and I went to see that. Yes,
And, I mean, did you just love it? This classy, elegant,
yes.
talk about majestic woman who loves her family and, is so protective of them and loyal to her man and loves beauty, because from beauty comes hope and inspiration, and you could see the compassion, the true compassion, as she met with, people struggling. And but of course the critics, they just mocked, they laughed, they called it just propaganda. And that's what happens when you really hate someone. You become blinded to, the goodness of a situation. Just
Yeah.
because you might,
Yeah.
you know, not like the man she's married to, it doesn't mean that, everything she does and says is just propaganda and ridiculous, like I've been hearing, those who are reviewing the movie. And so, God knows hate causes blindness. It causes a lodging and a suffocation and a cankering of the soul. And so, what do we do, Deb?
Oh, what do we do? Well, while you were talking, I had an image in my head. Have you ever seen a lifeguard save a swimmer? It's almost like he's choking him because he grabs him around the neck and he takes off and he's just telling them, relax, relax, relax. And they're floating backwards while he takes them to shore. Sometimes you
Good
feel like
analogy.
that's what you want to do to people who are absolutely destroying their lives
Yeah.
or destroying the lives of others. The thing I took away from Melania and the movie was not her beliefs, it was her attention to detail. There are
Mm.
things in life that are so tiny, but they'll sink you.
Yeah.
And then there are things in life that are so big and you think, "Oh, that's gonna get me the success I want," and the big thing will sink you. She seems like a person that is really detailed on making every little portion of her life and for the service that she gives America to be done right. And she researches it and she tries to get it right. I hope and I pray that I'm that kind of person. That I'm the kind of person that my faith is out in the open for everyone to see and that they know that I feel great compassion for anyone that's in trouble. And going back to the protesters, if a protester is listening, or if you know a protester who is in trouble with anger, please tell them there's a way out. Please tell them there's a way to protest or to contact their congressman or whatever they need to do to change things that they feel are not right. And please tell them that accepting Jesus Christ and studying his teachings will give them the peace they desperately need and want.
True.
Jesus will give them a purpose and a drive for a better life. And in his teachings, he will not only save your soul, he can literally save your life.
Mm.
What do you think, Julie?
Oh, amen. Thank you for that witness. I mean, he's the ultimate healer, right? I was listening to Tony Robbins. You know who he is, that motivation
Yes, yes.
speaker, and he's, like, written books on money and motivational books, and he said, "I used to have this long list of mission statement of my life, of everything I wanted to accomplish," and he said, "I rarely read that thing, it was just so overwhelming." He said, "I realized my purpose, my mission every morning when I wake up is simply, how can I help?' When you wake up and you look around and you see a problem, you ask, 'How can I help?'" He said, "It's as simple as that. Yeah, after you've done certain things in life, how much money can you make?" He said, basically, I just want to know, I've been put on this earth for a reason. How can I help?" And you come to know your purpose when you're serving others, right? My mom always said, when you help your brother's boat across, lo, your own reaches the shore. When you're in the service of helping where there's a need. I mean, legitimate, real help, that when people come to you one on one, and look, that was the pattern and the model that Christ set. He didn't go to big rallies and hold signs. He walked the dusty roads with one or two people struggling. He broke bread with a person, and that's where the heart can really be touched. When someone is struggling, you bring him into your home, you sit him down for a meal, whatever. It's going to look different, but I just love that. How can I help? I have a little girl who's going to call me after the podcast today, and she's just recently joined our church and she just wants to talk. I mean, those are simple things that no one will ever know about. Well, now they will because I told everyone, but just simple things every day when someone comes to us, just saying, "How can I help?" And a lot of times you can't do much, but you can give them some of your time. You can pray for them. You can put your arm around the shoulder. To me, that's how you really help, right? That
Right.
and when you serve other people, you see them in a different light. You walk a mile in their shoes and you begin to understand. You're less inclined to judge. It's so easy for me to judge all those crazy protesters I'm seeing on TV as all wackos, but that's so unfair of me that when I see someone who's really struggling emotionally and mentally, I need to say, "How can I help you?" You know? And I mean, I might not go to the protest with you, but what can I do just heart to heart? And I believe people will feel the sincerity of that very simple offer. How can I help? How can I?
Ah, you are the best, Julene.
Oh,
And for our listeners, when we get together, we can go for hours. We can go for hours.
yeah.
We are cutting it down so much to have this podcast. We can go for hours. 2 motor mouths, right? Oh, thank you for your thoughts today. And while you were talking, I was thinking about something that's happened to me in the last week. I've had 2 people tell me, "I can't talk to a counselor. I can't talk to somebody else. I can't go to my best friend because they may judge me." You know what? You'll never get help if you feel that way. The best thing that you can do is find someone that you know is gonna love you, gonna wrap their arms around you, and they listen to you, because a lot of anger comes down, a lot of frustration, anxiety, sadness, grief, whatever it is, it dissipates when you share it with a friend.
Mm.
So you're the best, Julene. Thank you. And thank you for your thoughts today. Well, I hope we have given our listeners a compassion and the desire to pray for the protesters. Bad times are coming for them if they don't change, and I hope they will. So, my tip for today is pay attention to your body. Don't allow anger to trap you inside of a negative lifestyle. Pray, meditate. My favorite thing, listen to calming music. And then the other thing is laugh your little heart out and try to see some good in other people. You can keep your opinions when you do that, but just realize that with or without another person's agreement, you can still be calm and have a happy life. Julie?
So good. My tip comes from Tony Robbins because I was listening to him, but he said something, a line that I thought was catchy, but says so much. He said, "Where your focus goes, your energy will flow. What you are
Oh,
focusing on is what you give your best energy to." And, if you're focusing on who's done you wrong and who you don't like, that's negative energy. And that will ultimately break your flow down, right? But
right.
if you can focus on, "How can I help? What can I do to help?" It'll end up elevating yourself because you're serving others, you're helping others, and it's gonna help you. And so, once again, within your most intimate circles of influence, right? Within the four walls of your home, your neighborhood, your coworkers, your church members, how can you help in those areas? Start there. Instead of trying to change the world, just start with your closest relationships. And I really believe, as you focus on helping, you will flourish, right? You will have the strength and the capacity to be a builder and a healer. You will be in your flow and it will feel so good. You will have an expanded capacity to help those that are struggling. I tell my kids when you wake up, we want to win the day, so let's focus on good things. Let's have our energy go to being builders, and where our focus goes, our energy flows. So that is my tip for the day.
And that's great advice. Great advice. Wow. I hope our listeners have a better grasp of beauty, compassion, and the love we should have for all our fellow Americans. Subscribe to this podcast and join us again. You can ask a question or request that we dig into a specific topic, and I promise you we'll do it. Just write me, Debbie at debbiejansen.com. And thanks again to our wonderful producer, Ken Jansen. He is the best. Look him up at Downpour International. This is Debbie Jansen, and I'm sticking to the truth.
And I'm Julene Jackson, and we hope that you will keep sticking to the truth. We will see you next time. Take care.
Bye bye.